took my oldest son and we drove to Citi Field, and it was very emotional because I didn't know if I was going back again this season. I still don't know if I'm going back this season. And I was explaining the scenarios to Jet, and as I was explaining the scenarios, it was even firmer in my head how important last night's Met game was. Very important. The difference between going to Atlanta with a 1-game lead and very little margin for error as compared to going with a 2-game lead, which is what they have, which Sean Morash and Tiki Barber correctly predicted.
That's
I
right.
asked everybody on Friday, what will the scenario be on Monday? And both said it's going to be the same. The Mets are going to be up 2. And you guys were right. The Mets won 2 out of 3 after winning the opener on Thursday. The Braves won 2 out of 3. I was wrong. I thought the Mets were going to lose 2 out of 3. The Braves were going to sweep, and they were going to be tied. Loogie was even wronger because he had the Mets winning every game, the Braves losing every game, and this thing essentially being over. So he was wrong, I was wrong, and you two were very, very right.
That's right.
But going into last night's game at Citi Field, I didn't know you guys were going to be right. And I wasn't very confident. And all year long, I have matched Tommy's positivity with my fear that something bad is going to happen. And I can't lie to you. I still fear something bad is going to happen
You got
in
scars.
Atlanta. I got major scars. And I'm thankful that they've set themselves up by winning 3 of 4 from Philadelphia, 6 of 7 on this homestand, and being in a spot, which if you don't know, it's very simple. If the Mets win 2 out of 3, they've clinched a playoff spot. Period, stop, good night, see you later. They're a playoff team.
Unbelievable.
If they lose 2 out of 3, they still leave Atlanta with everything right in front of them. They would have it's true. They'd have a 1-game lead. They would not have the tiebreaker, which means they've got to maintain that 1-game lead, and they've got to hold off the Braves having a better weekend against Kansas City than the Mets would have against the Brewers. That's a toss-up. Who the hell knows what happens? Obviously, getting swept is the doomsday scenario, but it's the scenario I fear because we saw it 2 years ago. It ain't that far removed from that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that really hit me as I sat there last night, and I was bougie as all hell. I was sitting in crazy good seats, which is a rarity. I'll go back to my season tickets for the postseason, assuming there is postseason. But as I sat there with my wonderful son, I realized something. Something I've always realized. Something I've always said, but something that's worth repeating. I hate this. I hate pennant races.
Yeah.
I hate my team being good because I was miserable for 2.5 hours.
And you were tweeting through it, too, last night. Oh, I hate this. I hate games. This, that.
I tweeted once. I said I hate this.
I feel like it was multiple times. But
That's
it's
all
neither
I
here nor
said.
there. The bottom line is just
Maybe I
Evan,
texted you guys I hate this a few times.
we all, in the moment, hate the agita, but you got to embrace the agita.
Yeah.
In the final home game of the year, the Mets flexed to prime time versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Held, and their pitching held up as Wheeler was mowing down the Mets until Nimmo hit that home run. That's what it's all about,
No,
baby.
I understand they won.
That's why you pay the thousands of dollars you do and make no resale when they can't sell out a game. They can't sell them. It's for that moment last night, Evan.
No, you're right. In the moment, it's awful. That's all I'm saying. As I sit here right now and I talk about the experience of being at Citi Field on Sunday night and the experience of being Citi Field a lot this season and watching the evolution of a baseball team that had nobody going to games, no energy in the ballpark to what we're witnessing now. Dude, it's amazing. Yeah. And it's fun to talk about from that standpoint. But in the moment, like when Edwin Diaz, and this is the part that, like, there's so many things that I can't get out of my head.
Oh.
But when Edwin Diaz strikes out JT Realmuto, and Bryson Stott is stealing third base, and Francisco Alvarez makes the throw to third, to which I'm reacting, screw it, don't even throw to third base. Like, what are you doing at this point? Don't even throw to third base. There's 2 outs. And that ball hits the third base bag and plops into the air. I wanted to disappear from the earth. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This is how the Phillies are going to tie the game? But as that ball hit the third base bag and stayed close enough, I thought to myself, are we starting to get the breaks now?
You've been getting them all year.
Well, I wouldn't say all year. Francisco Lindor is out with a back issue.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't call that a break.
Not
Their
everything's
ace
a break.
Kodai Senga's barely pitched this year. I wouldn't call that a break, okay?
But they've
so don't
had-
spare me on breaks.
You know that they've had a few of these moments all year where you're expecting the worst, and the worst doesn't happen.
But a lot of times when I'm expecting the worst, they have been the team to overcome it. They've earned that. That little plop, it's very similar. And I think
Could
how
we
he
get a
wrote,
better throw, too?
What was that?
Could we get a better throw?
I don't think he should have thrown. And look, Edwin Diaz needs to clean up holding guys on base because they just free ran him all over the place. We saw that in the 8th inning, too, when Trey Turner did that. And then obviously we saw it in the 9th inning with Bryson Stott and eventually Brandon Marsh, where they allowed the lead run to just trot over to second base. So that's on Edwin Diaz. He needs to do a better job of holding base runners on. But they've done a great job of being the team to overcome adversity. That was a break. Now, Edwin Diaz had to take advantage of it when he's facing Roger Clemens, his son. That was the other thing. Wow. Are they going to let Roger Clemens, his son, stick it to us in Game 4 of this series? The difference between a 1-game lead and a 2-game lead? But credit to Edwin Diaz. He overcame losing his control in the Brandon Marsh at-bat. He overcame not being able to hold anybody on base. He overcame walking Bryson Stott. And he was able to get those 2 enormous strikeouts to get out 2 and out 3 and get a 6-out save.
That's the other thing. Yeah, first 6-out save coming off pitching on Saturday as well. Now, I know you got to get there and, knock on wood, everything. Also gives you a little confidence if and when you're in the postseason here, Evan, that 6-out save last night.
Well,
it gives him at least that confidence.
Yeah, look, there are very few guys that you can hand the baseball to get a 6-out save, especially against who he was facing. He faced the Philadelphia Phillies with a 1-run lead. He faced Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner and Bryce Harper and Alec Bohm and really good hitters with 6 outs with a 1-run lead and no margin for error. And by the way, anytime he gave up a blue pit to Trey Turner or a walk to Bryson Stott, the guy ends up on third base.
Right.
So every base hit or walk turns into essentially a triple. But he did an outstanding job. His season is completely turned from when he lost his closer's job to when he was suspended to obviously the Corbin Carroll Grand Slam. And the New York Mets, they've earned this, even though I may regret saying this. They have earned our trust going into Atlanta. Because at every turn this season, from 11 under to before that at 0-5, to obviously the adversities they've even faced recently with Francisco Lindor not playing, to the game against the Arizona Diamondbacks, where you, Sean, I give you credit. I give Loogie credit for being positive, but I don't know. He's very predictable now. Watch this. He's like a jukebox. How are the Mets going to do against the Braves this week?
Sweep them.
See what I'm saying?
Damage.
I listened to you. I was not on the air that day after Corbin Carroll hit the Grand Slam.
Me and Big Mac.
It was Sean Morash and Chris McMonagle. And I listened very carefully because I wanted to hear what they said. I wanted to hear if they were going to bury us or not. And Chris McMonagle did. He did. He said, the Mets are dead. That's what he said. He said, the Mets are dead. And you said, you know what, Chris? It was a horrible loss. They're not dead yet. And they responded. And in a lot of ways, the response from that Arizona game may be their most impressive response. Or maybe their most impressive response is this. Francisco Lindor, the MVP, right?
Guess he's not anymore.
Forget that. Hasn't played on this homestand.
Yeah.
And they went 6-1.
They've been galvanized since. Another meeting as well where Pete Alonso stepped up and spoke up. It's just incredible, Evan. Every which way you make this, and this weekend is just incredible. And I'm gonna make a comp you're not gonna like, but I do think it holds water because I'm speaking as an IBO for your team, right? I'm not a Met fan. You know what the Mets have done? They got a little Knicks in them, and this is what I mean. Even if you're not a Met fan, even if you're not a Knicks fan, this version of the Mets and this core of guys and this manager, a lot like the Jalen Brunson Knicks, damn, is it hard to hate them even if you don't like them.
I understand that.
I found myself, I'm telling you last night, for all the Met hater, Nimmo hit the homer, and I caught my wrist. I had to stop it. I did this fist pump action.
Look at you.
I kind of like this team. They're not hateable, which is very hard to do in a two-team town.
No, I think that comparison is fair. I think the other comparison with the Knicks, not to the same level as the injuries and overcoming them.
Yeah.
The Mets haven't been ravaged by injuries this season, but you think of Kodai Senga. He never plays. He comes back. He gets hurt again. He actually even got hurt the other day, so he's not going to come back for the end of the regular season. You think of Jeff McNeil, not the most important guy, but certainly an important guy. And obviously to top the list is Francisco Lindor. But here's the facts, and we'll spend a lot more time on this tomorrow. They got to win this series. On a lot of levels. They have to win this series. They have to, the final kind of exclamation point on OMG is to finish the job in Atlanta. They cannot miss the playoffs after all of this. They can't do it. If they do it, I'm sorry, it's going to ruin everything. Everything. It doesn't mean they don't have a future. It doesn't mean they don't have a great general manager. It doesn't mean Mendy hasn't done a wonderful job. It doesn't mean they may not sign Corbin Burns and Juan Soto, whatever free agent you want. I'm not saying their future is doomed, but they have a 2-game lead with 6 to go. It is all right there to beat an Atlanta Brave team. Now, they do have Ozzie Albies back, but still a Brave team that has faced their pieces of adversity this season. They've got their 3 best pitchers that they hand chose to pitch this series. They have got to, on so many levels, they've got to win this series. And not even, well, they won a game. They've got the safety net.
No,
it's a safety net, but then you got to sweat out the weekend. Win 2 of 3. Beat the freaking Braves, win the series, clinch a playoff spot, we party, and we can analyze the playoffs at a later date. They've got to finish the job.
You've set me up perfectly, Evan, and I want to make an official WFAN Sports Radio proclamation.
Oh, God.
No, I'm serious.
What?
Because this ties to all these fan bases in town. We have hit a very unreal week here. It's Ghostbusters week. It's Ghostbusters week as we turn against the fall.
Yeah, I get you.
Start first, very minimally. The Orioles have owned the Yankees this year, so much so that they already have the tiebreaker.
They do not have the tiebreaker, but if they win a game, they would have the tiebreaker.
They currently hold it. You get the drift. Okay?
I'm just saying. It's 6-4 Orioles.
Ghostbusters.
Just giving you the facts here.
Fact checker.
Let's get the facts out of the way.
Yankees have handled everybody but the Orioles. Ghostbust them. The New York Mets.
Yes.
And everybody's so scared of the Atlanta Braves and you're all those scars. These Mets that have answered the bell all year, ghostbust them. And then, of course, you have Thursday Night Football with the Giants and Cowboys.
I agree with everything you said. I just have a problem with the way you ordered it. I think the Mets are the main event. I think the Giants you put second. Giants, Cowboys, it's a regular season game in September. Ghostbusted. I'm good with you on that. The capper is the Braves. That's the capper.
All right. I mean, potato.
No. It's not
Giants
potato.
basically have never beaten Dak Prescott and the Cowboys.
Sean, I totally get that, and I don't want to dismiss the Giant fan, and Lukey can probably best understand this as a Giant Met fan. You beat the Cowboys, that is great, and I'd be very happy for you. If the Mets win a series against the Braves, they finish the job.
Yeah.
Not that they eliminate them. They don't eliminate them technically because I think they have the tiebreaker on Arizona. I don't want to get in the weeds on that, but we finish the job in terms of being a playoff team. And that, to me, is so important after what happened 2 years ago.
Let me couch this. You play 2 games versus the Braves before we ever get the Giants. Cowboys.
I understand.
So chronologically, the point is, all of these teams and all these fan bases and towns are staring at, some lesser than others,
I understand.
demons and antagonists.
I got you.
And spooky season is here with the fall, and it's Ghostbusters week. We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Well, I am, but okay.
Well, and you teed me up, Evan.
Yes.
The Mets need this series against the Braves. The fans need it more.
We do.
There are a lot of skeletons in our closet that have Braves hats on it, right? This is a team that has haunted us for decades. There is a fear, especially in Atlanta. The fans need it, just like the Red Sox needed to get over that demon and that hump of the Yankees, and we know where that sent both franchises. The Mets and their fans need this series.
Yeah, they got to beat them.
Yeah.
They got to beat them. And look, I get, and this is why last night was so important, the Mets are in a position where they could lose 2 out of 3 and then win 3 straight against the Brewers and make the playoffs anyway. I fully understand every scenario, trust me. I've studied them. I get it. But I want it this way. And this way is going toe-to-toe in Atlanta, the side of the Demons from not just 2 years ago, but obviously our long history against them dating back to the 90s, and getting the job done.
You know what they need to be in Atlanta? Brave.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, one other thing, and we'll get to your calls. My man, Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso had a relatively quiet weekend against the Philadelphia Phillies. He came up in a big spot Friday night with a chance to bring them back into the game. He came up small. He did get on base 5 times on Saturday with 4 walks and a blue pin. I don't want to ignore that. But I noticed something yesterday. And like I told you, I was sitting in very, very bougie seats. Very, 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 very bougie seats.
How much food you stuffed on your fat face?
I cannot begin to tell you.
Okay.
Actually, not as much as you'd think, because my priority was
Scoring
my
the
son,
game?
Jet. No, it was Jet. And Jet is not a big eater. Like, Spence will eat anything. You know, our kids are very different.
Yep.
Spence would have gone to town on that place. Jet is very like, I don't like this, I like that. I really wanted him to go for it. So what I did is I starved him. I would not let him eat all day long so that when he got there, you like that, right?
I do.
He would go to town, and my man went to town. He went chicken fingers.
How many?
4.
All right.
He went strawberries.
What?
Big strawberry guy. I know that's not fattening. I apologize.
My
That didn't
kids do the
fit.
same thing.
He went
So disappointing.
pasta. Pasta primavera.
Oh.
Pasta pesto. Ice cream.
Multiple pasta sauces and ice cream?
Yes.
Boy, that had to have been a floor ride home.
He had a very good time. So my priority was him, so I didn't eat as much as you'd imagine. I had a couple of hot dogs and ice cream, whatever. But I was very close to the action. And I noticed something about Pete Alonso. And you know I love Pete. Pete's my guy, okay? Pete Alonso got a standing ovation as he came to the plate in the bottom of the first inning.
Mm-hmm. And the ump had to tell him.
Had to tell him what?
You didn't see this?
No, did I see it? I'm sitting there. I'm staring at
the story today. The umpire had to tell Pete as he was digging the box, well, you're going to tip your cap or not. And Pete was oblivious to the fact that he was...
I interpreted that completely wrong. That's not how I took it. Now,
he was in the zone, Pete.
No. Now, I can be accused of fan fiction.
Okay.
So your story is the complete opposite from what I saw in the moment. And I'm going to tell you my story. And again, you guys watched it on TV. You could say, Evan, you're dead wrong. I thought Pete Alonso walked to the plate and could not wait to tip his hat. Like, he got to the plate like, I'm taking that hat off immediately. He could not wait to say thank you to the adulation that he was getting from Met fans. So what you saw
being a Met
was very different than what I felt. I felt Pete couldn't wait to tip his hat.
Well, I'm just telling you what Pete himself said.
Yeah, he can say whatever he wants. Pete's, my guy.
Pete himself said, the umpire told me, so what do you mean, why should I tip my cap?
Yeah,
basically, is what paraphrasing.
Yeah,
there.
I think that's not true.
But it was about him being in the zone about the at-bat.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Either way, it was a lovely moment.
I'm just telling you right now, I don't think that was true.
Did you shed any tears?
No, and I'll tell you why. A couple of things. First of all, I don't believe that story because that's not what I saw. What I saw, that's not what I saw. I mean,
you don't believe the guy. Okay.
No, I was staring at the guy.
All right.
I was sitting like literally, I'm not even kidding, 12 feet away from him.
Evan, I think that's
great. As he came to the plate, and it appeared as if he was taking his helmet off before, and I'm not ripping him. I'm merely telling you what I saw. It looked like a guy who could not wait to say...
This is a new low for you.
Why is it a new low?
That you know more about what Pete Alonso was thinking than what Pete Alonso himself was thinking about himself.
I'm saying, no. I'm saying what Pete's story doesn't check out to what I saw.
Okay.
And again, maybe what I saw is what I wanted to see. Maybe it was fan fiction. I don't know. I'm just describing what I saw. I was there last night. And what I saw was a guy who could not wait to tip his hat. And I don't have a problem with that. Pete loves us, and I love him. I want Pete to be a Met forever. But I also want him to perform. And he struck out his first few at-bats.
Yep.
Now, he did make a great defensive play in this game, which should not be ignored, ending the sixth inning against Bryson Stott. Headlong dive, good play on the spring training play to first base. It was a great play. And that should not be ignored because I think too many people ignore Pete's defense and how good it's been, especially recently. But offensively, he looked like he was pressing. And what I would say to Pete is, dude, you got to relax. We love you. Most of us love you. Most of us want you back. But most of us want you to hit. You have demons in Atlanta, too. We all do. And what you need to do is exercise them. So forget free agency. Forget the adulation of Met fans. We love you. But now is big boy time. Now is the time to perform. And I felt personally like Pete was pressing a little bit too much yesterday specifically based on how we treated him. And that's not to blame us. Like, I cheered him, too. I love Pete. I'd love to have him back. I don't want him going anywhere else. I mean, obviously, maybe change the equation. But look, I'm just being honest.
It's fine.
So he needs to perform because they need him. They need him badly, especially these 3 games coming up in Atlanta.
All right, so if you had to predict right now, was that the last time we saw Pete Alonso in a Met uniform Citi Field?
No.
I agree with you.
Now, you didn't ask me when I'm going to see him again. It may be in March.
I think divisional round, but that's me.
I've always felt that he would end up back here. So I'm not, and I'm also not thinking about it, I swear to you.
Right.
Like, I'm so focused on this team right now and this postseason run and if they could make the playoffs, and I'm not overthinking free agency. But if you ask me right now, do I think I see him at Citi Field again? I do.